If you had your hands on the till, what would you be doing?
Yeah, look, I think I'd start with the forecast for the unemployment rate and work backwards from there. If Treasury were telling me that the unemployment rate would still be around about 7% at the end of next year, for example, I'd say to them, well, how much money and where do I need to spend that money to get that figure even lower? And that's where things like extending JobKeeper, JobSeeker could be important. The infrastructure spending rollout will be important, no doubt. And then there's issues to do with investing in social housing, these sorts of things, tax deductions, maybe some discussion of income tax reductions. So what we do need here and now is money into the private sector pockets so that they spend, they invest and they hire, most importantly. So I'd be looking at policies that make sure the economy is growing strongly enough so that in a reasonable amount of time, we get that unemployment rate back to where it was pre-COVID.
7%, that by the end of next year, that would not be a bad result, would it not?
It's a chicken and egg thing, yes.
Considering where we are at the moment, and also there's suggestions that it might take several years for Australia to get below 6% again. So if it's 7% by the end of next year, then maybe they'd take that.
Well, it was only 10 months ago that it was 5%. So look, it's difficult and a lot depends on how the health crisis goes and how cures for COVID-19, how we learn to live with COVID-19 could be another important issue. But for here and now, it's about jobs. And we've heard the Treasurer, the Prime Minister saying that they want to get the unemployment rate lower. And even last week, Treasurer Frydenberg said that he's going to keep the fiscal pump priming going until he gets the unemployment rate sustainably below 6%. So he's got a similar idea. And I guess the question that we're debating and we'll be looking at in the budget next week will be what sort of time frame that is. If it takes 5 years, that's too long. If it's 2 or 3 years, that's okay, but it'd be nice to make it 18 months before we got all these people who lost their jobs because of COVID-19 to get them back.
Is this the most important budget in our lifetime?
Oh, look, it's a really, really important one. Yes, any budget during or immediately after a recession is really important because businesses have been hit very hard. People have lost their jobs. Wages growth is falling. We've got some severe economic problems right now. So this is a really important one. And if Mr. Frydenberg can get this right, if he can get the numbers and the policy settings right, hopefully in 6, 9 or 12 months, we'll be talking about the speed of the recovery. Is it fast enough? Is it too slow? And that's the sort of framework that he can be working on as he brings down his budget next week to get the economy. It won't fix the economy in the next month or two. It's really a question about 2021 and 2022.
No, okay. Well, it does seem as though that those the next rounds of tax cuts are going to be brought forward. Is that something that you would think seems inevitable here?
It looks inevitable because it's popular and people who've got a job get more money in their pocket. But whether it's the most effective thing is the $64 billion question, I suppose, because we've seen with some of these other payments already during COVID, the money that's been handed out to pensioners and JobKeeper, JobSeeker, a lot of it's being saved. So in a sense, it's not really getting into the economy in the same way that perhaps direct investment infrastructure, to use that example again, creates jobs as, machinery digs the holes and bricks are being laid and cement's being poured and these sorts of things, which is actual GDP here and now. That's money that's definitely impacting on the economy. If I get a $20 a week tax cut, well, I'll be happy, but I might just stick that in my savings because I'm a bit worried about 2021.
They are moving at that though, aren't they? Bringing forward those infrastructure projects right around the country.
Yes, indeed, and that's a good thing. I'd love to see that. And this is, again, the other point that's being discussed in recent times. Harmonising that with the state and territory governments is very important. The state and territories do control a lot of that infrastructure spending. So the Commonwealth can sort of do its part, of course it can, and it can be the guiding force behind some of these changes. But bringing the national cabinet, if you like, or the state and territory chief ministers and premiers on board so that they ramp up their infrastructure as well is part of this coordinated approach to getting the economy back into recovery mode sooner rather than later.
Yeah, you see in the banner at the bottom of your screen there, the deficit's expected to go beyond $200 billion and our total debt is likely to nudge $1 trillion. At this point, does it even matter? You've just got to spend and get money out there and get the economy going that way.
Here and now, it doesn't matter. This is a war footing, if you like.
Despite how long it's going to take to pay back.
Yeah, but I'm half worried about the debt. It's how we deal with it when the economy recovers. Look, let's just get the economy back into growth mode. When it recovers, then we'll have to have a very careful and a very difficult think about how we stabilise this escalation in debt, how we get that 200 and something billion dollar deficit back towards balance. Look, it's not going to be urgent that we do it, but nonetheless, the concern would be if in, again, 2 or 3 years' time, the economy's recovered, hopefully, and we do have, say, 1.25 trillion of government debt. If we do have the budget deficit still at, say, 50 or 100 billion dollars, then the question will be what policies have to change, and whoever's the treasurer in that budget will be making equally difficult choices that Mr. Frydenberg's got to make next week.